appreciate everybody for your interest in the Swift Explorations class. Everybody here will be coming from different backgrounds and uh, different subject areas. And so this is really meant to be something that Noble and everyone that we have supporting him, it's really meant for everyone to be able to get this basic understanding of what is coding, how do you do it, and why it's important in the context of the economy and everything that's moving in this direction of code, low code, no code. Those are all terms that you will be very familiar with here in the coming weeks. So with that, I just wanted to thank everybody for signing up and for participating. If you have any questions while Dr. Anumbe is going through his lecture, if they're just very basic questions or administrative questions, please feel free to reach out to myself or my colleague Chase Bussell, who is also here on the call. And if it's something that is related to the subject matter, please direct your question to Dr. Anumbe, as I am most certainly not a subject matter expert. And with that, I will hand it over to our expert, Dr. Noble Anumbe, my good friend, who will be leading us in this great class. So thank you, everybody, for your participation, and hope you get something out of this.
Okay, Jay. Again, thank you everyone for attending. My name is Noble Anumbe, and I work at the university. Jay is a colleague of mine, and sorry, my voice is kind of raspberry-ish. Had to do with the cold. But then my background, I'm actually an engineer, I'm a project manager and an instructor. The other thing I left out is that I also do research at the university. But for this specific class, I'm looking to have, more like focus on being more, I mentioned to a small group of colleagues earlier in the morning, to be more of a tour guide for these classes. Because, and I say tour guide because the bulk of what you're going to be learning would require your participation. So to set the stage for today's class, so I'm literally on a Windows, not even on a Mac, because we wouldn't be doing much of anything around coding or whatever. We want to be able to, my goal this evening is actually to tell you what the program is about, and then hear back from you in terms of if you want to talk, if you want to, type in the chat area, whatever it is that you want to do. I want to be able to have an idea of the skill level in the class. So I mean, if you can, while we are doing this, at some point I'm going to call for that though. So I want to be able to understand the skill level in the class, because it's not within the college, and it's within more like an academia community government program. We we've had to open like the program to a wider audience. So technically what we have right here is everything from high school students. I think there are about 3 minors in the program, up to professorial levels. I've had some recent computer science graduate students reach out to me and say they were attending the course, and then some others that are literally in the computer science program. So you can see how wide that range is, which is why it's important to be able to set the expectations about the class, and to be able to, for those that decide to, continue with the class for as long as necessary, to be able to create pathways for everyone to both enjoy the class and also learn a lot in the class. So when it comes to resources, I mean, we've never lived in a time as resource rich as what we have today. Um, Essentially, what problem we have right now is being able to sort out all of the research. So anything I'm telling you right now, or I'm going to be doing in this class, is already available online. That's why I said I'm going to be a tour guide. At some point, I'm going to be helping folks see where the resources are so that you can, begin to walk towards achieving the goals of the class. So the class is going to, you know, in the next few classes, we are going to tease up all the details of the class so that we know these are the benchmarks. And if you're able to reach these benchmarks, you are actually able to achieve these specific competencies. And here are the materials to be able to achieve those competencies. We'll come to the class, do some work, assign some reading and some practice. You go do the coding and everything, and then you come back to me. To be frank with you, the program we are going to undergo right now is something within industry, right? You have p- people in companies as as high as Apple. Their coders, this is actually the same course they have to take, and then this same course is also available to high school students. And in the high school, I think there's an AP course around this too, where students have to take this as part of their AP program. And for the AP class, the required number of hours is 180 hours for this one section of the course. And I'm going to discuss some more about the course. So for us, it's a 13-week course, which means we are going to be spending about 26 hours. That's including today to complete that amount of work. What that automatically should relate to you is that the bulk of the work cannot you really can't have anything achieved within 2 hours a week for 13 weeks. Most of that work needs to be done by you, and that's why I'm going to be talking a bit more. I'm going to connect some of the ideas I'm talking about right now to several other things outside coding, so that everyone is actually able to understand where we're going and where we're going to go there. Because when we talk about app development, some people actually think you can, you know, um, begin to develop apps like at the back of your hand within a week or 2 weeks. It takes some time to build this out. And that's part of what I'm actually trying to do today, to set the expectations, help you understand what's involved in the course, and to also get you to believe that it's possible that in no far time in the future, you would actually you can potentially become a pro. So um, the focus of the course, right, is a program language that we would call that's called Swift. And Swift, as you can see from my slide, is a very powerful and intuitive programming language. And there are 1,001 different programming languages with different structures, different syntax, and different capabilities. But Swift was developed by Apple, um, uh, or rather, Swift is one of those programs, right? It's very native to Apple. Like, not too sure about the background and history of the program, but it's been heavily associated with Apple. So it's safe by design and produces software that runs lightningly fast. That's one of the key features of this. And the way it's so designed that if you make mistakes, which is what we mean by safe by design there, the program actually does not just go ahead and execute and maybe do things you never intended. It actually points out the errors and immediately shows you what you're doing wrong. So it's interactive and it's fun. The syntax is very concise and also very expressive, something you're going to eventually begin to see. Unlike several other languages, it's almost like you're speaking in human language, because you can actually just read through this code and it's very easy for you to point out exactly what's going on. That's why we talk about it as being very expressive. It has a lot of modern features, which is exactly one of the reasons developers actually love it, and it's relatively easy to learn. Again, I want to make sure that you don't think it's just something you're going to click your fingers and you're going to learn, compared to other languages like C++, maybe Objective-C. um, Swift is quite easy to learn, but that does not mean that you don't have to put a lot of work into it. And then it's essentially used for iOS, the various operating systems for multiple Apple devices, the TV, the watch, the Mac. It's actually used to develop applications for every one of them. So, but one of the things I'd like to do before I continue, right, would be to figure out the skill level of folks in the class. I don't know if you can just type in the chat area. I mean, we're going to take beginning from novice to I know a little, or I'm an expert. If you can just type in that in the chat area, I mean, that can be helpful because it will help us begin to understand where we are. Mm, yeah, just type in if you're close to your computer. Just type in novice to Swift, amateur to coding. Okay, yeah, that's regular course around computer programming and Swift will be da 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 da. Novice, I know a little from engineering programming courses. Okay, so actually being able to knowing having some knowledge of some other programming language is an advantage. But again, the way this course is designed, it's designed for people that are completely novices. And I'm going to begin to talk about people that already have some programming experience and how we are going to be dealing with that as we proceed in the course. Well, at least I have, I don't think a lot of people responded, but most of those that responded here, mm, okay. Most of people that responded here have said novice, very little programming background, and not and another who knows C++. Okay, the folks that know C++, yes, that's okay. C sharp, awesome. So for those of you, right, that already have some knowledge of other programming languages, including say Python, C++, C sharp, Java, and all of that, right? Um, there are a couple of things that we would be doing. I would actually encourage you to participate in all of those things because there are slight variations and slight differences between what you already know and what because the syntaxes are about a little different, but things around data structures and all of that are going to be right about the same thing. So eventually I'm going to introduce some resources. If you think the class is too slow, you can start working on those resources because it would immediately give you an in into Swift. But then it might be a good idea to come in here, get the classes, do some of the exercises that are for everyone, and then go out there to go work on the other resources that I'll be pointing to you later because it will help you catch on to it very quickly if you already have a background. But if you do not have a background, there's no need to panic. We are going to literally build from the ground up. So in keeping with that, I want to go to the next slide, right? And again, what we are talking about is literally like learning a new language. And again, I'm starting at this point because I don't want anyone to feel overwhelmed and relate this to literally learning to speak a completely different language than your native language, or if English is all you speak, just imagine having showing up in class today to learn French and in your mind begin to think about what it would take you to learn French. It's just about the same thing that is going to take you to learn coding. Now, for me in high school, I literally took 6 years of French, right? I ended up being able to write French, some French, and say a couple of words in French. But if you threw me into Paris today, right? Or let's say somewhere in the countryside of France where people just speak French, right? I might end up getting lost because all I did was just go to class, do the reading, do the assignments, and I never got immersed um, in the experience. And then I have another friend, right? Right after college, he got a job with Elf Oil Company, which is like a French conglomerate, and they put him through, I think it was an 8-week class where he had to attend something like what we have here. And then after that, they just took him to France to go stay with a family. Family could not speak English. He could not speak French. He was supposed to hang out with them for a couple of weeks, and they were supposed to figure it out, right? He was immersed in that environment. And before you knew what was happening, he came back speaking French, and then he could literally go off to go work in France at the head office of his organization and travel around the world, worked with colleagues that spoke French, and he talked French. Right here in the university, I've had research colleagues that literally show up from China or they show up from Iran, no English at all. They enroll in the English language program here, and then they begin to interact. They get paired with English speaking folks and they begin to interact. They watch TV, they go everywhere. And before you know what's happening, within 6 months, they've taken the TOEFL, they are ready, and now they end up writing their dissertation in English. That's the power of language and learning language. Now compare that to my 6-year experience trying to learn French. So I say that because I'm trying to prepare us for the journey you are about to take right now. You know, um, I picked up some of these stats here, right? The number of words, this is words, please. Words currently in use in the English language are 171,146. And look at what happens. The vocabulary range of adult natives is about 20 to 35,000. For typical US adults, 42,000. So look at these numbers, available words, and then look at the number of words an average person uses, right? Dramatically, not even up to half of those numbers are what we use. But these words have enough efficiencies for us. Like we're able to communicate effectively with just 42,000 words. Now, when it comes to Swift and several other languages, there's a whole lot of things you're going to find in there. You don't need to know everything. At the end of the day, just being able to perfect 20% of what you have in those programs would help you to do 80% of the work that you need to do. So the trick right here is how do we figure out just that 20%, get so good at that 20%, again, relate this back to my French language class, right? And be able to use these words, not just attend classes, but to practice these words over and over again. So I hear of folks like Kobe and all of those guys, they go sometimes and throw shots almost all night, right? 500 shots just practicing one specific type of throw, 500. So it's more powerful, right, to practice one shot for 1,000 times than to practice 1,000 different shots once. That's very important, and that's what I'm trying to convey here. And now look at what's happening with age. And this is based on a study, right? The details, I actually put the source of this information down here. These slides will be available to us at some point. At 1 year old, kids have like 50 words. By 4 years, right? Nobody teaches them language. They are just there. They just listen and absorb and absorb. 8 years, 20 years, and then by 60 years, it has climaxed to somewhere around 48,000 words, right? All of this by immersion. Nobody takes you to class to go teach you a language. You just showed up in family. Everyone is talking, you're listening, you're participating. You do the gestures, you speak, and everyone just begins to speak. Same thing here. So again, the top tips for experts to learn a language quickly. And this is spoken language. And I'm making the case here that this is literally applicable to coding too, right? To writing programs. You have to take risks. You have to speak the language whenever you can. Read children's books and comic books in the foreign language. Consume foreign language media. Immerse yourself in the local culture. Make use of free foreign language podcasts and apps. Don't practice in isolation. Get feedback from active users. Don't worry about making mistakes. Just go, go, go. So learning a new language is an activity. So it's an activity. It's not about sitting down. You have to do something. That's why I put this in red, right? It's an activity. So I'm going down this and we're going to come to what the course is all about. So again, for the course, there's no prior experience that is required. The app development curriculum, which I'm going to introduce us to right now, makes it easy for anyone to code in Swift. In fact, just like the pros. The only distinction between where you are right now and becoming a pro, which I hope is going to happen very soon, is literally time and practice. Now, the curriculum has been used extensively, which is the curriculum I'm going to introduce to us. It has been used extensively for semester-long classes in schools, both at high school and colleges. So um, don't say it's very difficult because high school students have been able to do this. They've been used for professional certification, so it's not just a school thing. People have also used it for professional certifications, and others have used it for personal skills and advancement. So gradually, I'm going to be introducing certain words to you. So I just talked about Swift, which is the core item of focus, right, for what we are going to be doing today. But then you also have something you call Swift UI. The same thing. They are both are the same thing, but I'm trying to make a certain distinction because eventually you're going to begin to see these words if you don't know anything about them, right? You have Swift UI, and UI literally means user interface. This is literally what you use for building your front end. So when you see your app, right, everything that you can physically interact with is built with Swift UI. So they are literally a set of tools that help you describe and control the user interfaces. So you want to add a button, and then you want to make you want to just swipe, and then something just moves. All of that, right? To create those interfaces and then to simulate their behavior, right? All of that is done with Swift UI, right? Um, you want to respond to gestures, you want to create boxes where you can enter text and all of that. That's literally what Swift UI does for you. For some of you that have been involved in other some other programs, sometimes you understand that you need special frameworks to be able to build user interface that would run atop the application that you have written. That's literally what Swift UI does. And then literally Swift is the language itself. So it's the text you type into the computer that describes the behavior or responses of your program. And then the Swift UI is the tool used to build the front end interface, right, on which all of this runs. And that's literally how you arrive at your app. So, and your app literally bundles multiple features, both front end and um, back end, in a way that literally makes it accessible to you, the user. So that's literally the distinction between UI and Swift. But then I'm still going to talk about one more thing, right? Because one of the things is, because you're taking this class, you're going to begin to encounter different kinds of words. And it's important, once you see those words, that you are able to understand and figure out what those words are. So UI kit. Um, So before there was Swift UI, remember I told you about Swift UI being the framework for building the front end, right? Before there was Swift UI, there was actually UI Kit. Now, it was publicly released in 2008 and initially ran on iPhone, the operating system, the iPhone operating system, the OS 2. Now, because it's been running for that long, there is a whole lot of knowledge in what do you call them now? Like knowledge repositories, both online and in several holding places, right? Knowledge, more like your knowledge management system. So if you run into any kind of problem, or you don't know any particular thing, and then you're running a query online to be able to see a solution to your problem, chances are that you're going to see someone that has encountered the same problem and somehow has been able to ask that question online, and someone has responded to them, which is something that is going to be a huge part of what you do, which is going to search for answers. you know Now, in this case, for UI kit, a whole lot of answers already exist because we've been at this since 2008. So there's a whole wealth of knowledge in the knowledge databases. And the know-how that we are talking about greatly outnumbers the amount of knowledge or reserved or archived knowledge than what we have for Swift UI. So because Swift UI is literally young, 2018, that's like yesterday. And then if you throw in COVID and all of that, you can see how old Swift UI is. So, but the truth, the right now as we speak, both UI Kit and Swift UI are both in use. It was the idea of Apple to begin to create Swift UI. So if you go online, you're going to see a lot of arguments about UI Kit and Swift UI, back and forth, which is better and all of that. But because they have set up this, right, and then because most of the developers, right, and many organizations, use UI Kit, there is, of course, with change, there's hesitation to making changes to this. Nonetheless, if you talk to a couple of analysts and some developers too, they will tell you that the future is Swift UI. Again, both UI Kit and Swift UI are not mutually exclusive. It's not either one or the other. You can actually use UI code in a Swift UI view and vice versa. Now we are beginning to descend into this, and all of this is not something that you have to cram or whatever. It's just for you to know, because we are going to be interacting with several of these when we go into the program. So Swift UI, like I mentioned, has a lot going for it. It's known. A lot of the bugs have been removed. People are very familiar with it. Most of the iOS app developers, right, are comfortable with this. Then zooms in Swift UI. What it has done is actually introduce new paradigms and workflows in the platform, including bold and ambitious tools that simplify and modernize the development experience. So the whole idea was to be able to make, some really bold moves, because this is a little more conservative. you know, it uses both the Swift UI and the Apple kit behind the scenes. That's how this was developed. And part of the development of this is Apple has been able to see for UI kit, there are certain areas where they have actually literally hit dead ends. And UI kit is fundamentally unable to do certain things. And based on the experience they have taken from UI kit, that's why they now decided to build Swift UI. So that's the story of Swift UI. So generally, when say you're writing a code for UI kit, right? You might require say 100 lines of code to do about the same thing the Swift UI would do in like maybe 55 lines of code. So it's efficient in that way, right? So the build time too for Swift UI is way better than UI Kit. But the only other limitation that we have for Swift UI is that it works better for newer iOS versions like 14 and 15. So you can see how really, really new it is. So this was my whole point at the end of the day, right? One of the things I had asked for every one of us to download, I sent out that out in the email, was um, to install the, what you call it now, the Xcode. Now, all we really need based on everything I've said is that once you have your Xcode, which is your user, and I'm going to talk a little bit about this later because that's the interface on which we are literally going to be building. And the book, which I'm going to show us, your personal commitment at the end of the day is what's going to help you end up in pro. Now, I would say between this and this might be 20% of the work. This is where the heavy lift is. It's very important, really, really very important. So overall, this is what we have. This is what we have. And when I say we, I'm talking about Apple. Now, in helping me do this, right, it's very obvious I don't know everything because I don't work at Apple. So literally, once in a while, we might have to, parachute in, Apple resources to be able to help us in case people get stuck. There's a problem we can't fix internally because this is, an Apple product, and Apple would know this product better than any other person. So this is exactly what Apple has staked out, right? You want to be very proficient in this program. This is how you're going to go about it. So iOS app development with Swift has is is set up in 3 stages, right? You have explorations, you have the fundamentals, and you have the data collections. This is the book for explorations. I think it's like maybe about 600 pages for this book. And then there's fundamentals and there's data collections. This is literally going to introduce you to programming concepts. So for people that already have some programming experience, you're going to end up seeing a lot of the things you already know about here, right? Um, Data structures, you're going to be seeing control mechanisms, you're going to be seeing, a lot of all of that. But here we also begin to introduce some of the unique syntax of Swift. All of that is going to be happening here. So, which is explorations. Explorations has 4 units: Unit 1, Unit 2, Unit 3, and Unit 4. And all of these is what we hope to be able to complete in 13 weeks. So, if you are able to endure these 13 weeks, you haven't arrived yet. You still need to go through fundamentals, right? And that's after exploration. In fundamentals, you go even deeper based with a knowledge of the concepts you have already developed. And at this stage, you're actually going to be developing apps. You're going to be, doing both front end and back end. You're going to be interacting, and then a lot of computer science concepts you're going to learn. All of that is going to happen here. It's not like you're not going to build apps. But when you get here, you begin to take on, think of it when I talked about the language, right? Think of vocabulary. At this point, you don't speak at the high school level anymore, right? Here you speak at the high school level English. And then here you move up to college English, right? Now you have to write essays. Now you have to write a thesis and all of that. And you even develop more advanced apps. And then this is um, literally, this is college and this is grad school, literally. Because at this point, you now begin to interact with other applications outside where you can literally connect. You know how you build things like weather apps and you have to connect through APIs to other data sources, and you can pull all of that, those resources real time or on time into your app. That's what's happening at this stage, which is the data collection aspect of it. By this time, you have actually developed very advanced skills in all of this. So I take the time to do all of this because if the expectations are not set, what tends to happen is you get into these classes, you have 100 people. By the time you get to the second or third week, you have only 50 people left because the expectations weren't set in the beginning. So for us, for this class, this is where our focus is. So we're literally going to be starting with values next week. But before then, I'm going to assign some videos that you can watch, so that you are well ahead of what we intend to do, and some videos and some reading that you need to do. I'll send those over by email to everyone, and probably also throw in some of the links here if you might need them to get started. Again, most of what you're going to do, I would really appreciate coming in next week, and then people, based on the work they've done at home, will begin to ask questions. We tackle those questions, everybody learns, and then we proceed from there. So these are the 3 books. Now, these 3 books are completely available, which is what we call the Develop in Swift. Oh no. So the Develop in Swift books, just a minute, right, are flexible enough to help you whether you are new to coding or want to advance your skills. These books provide the practical experience, right? But you have to participate in creating apps for Mac using Xcode. We're going to talk a little more about Xcode later in the class, which is literally the integrated environment that is used to build apps for all Apple platforms. So I already talked a little about what each of these books are about, so I'm just going to skip that. And then the other part is there is a certification. And right now, the certification is actually connected to Apple, but it's not delivered by Apple. It's delivered by a company called Centriport. So if you're able to go through the explorations course, which is the course we're doing right now, and you're done with it, you can literally sign up with Centriport, right, to get certified for the associate certificate or badge. That's what we do. So everything we're going to do in this class is going to prepare you to be able to take those exams and to get certified as an associate, app development with Swift associate. And then by the time you're done with this, you can now migrate to the next class, which is developing Swift, which is the fundamentals course that I mentioned here. And then once you're done with that, you'll be able to go take the exam, which is referred to as a certified user. Anything above that just places you right at the expert level. But with both of these 2 apps, in fact, with the associate, you should be able to start creating your own apps and all of that. So I'm going to skip this. I've mentioned this already. It's just to tell us that we have a very tight schedule, 13 weeks to go through everything that we have to do. So then, which brings me to Xcode. I don't know if anybody okay, right. Thank you, Craig, for sending that. Okay, I know C and Java. Yeah, Sean, you are up there. So for folks like you, I'm going to be able to, introduce you, and I'm going to talk about that later. Some resources that can help you do that bridge very easily very easily, because like you have all the background that's required to be able to do the bridge. At the end of the day, it's just going to be things around syntax and a few other things around the user interface, UI development. So for this we use the Apple, the this integrated development environment, Xcode. It's free to download and use. It contains a collection of tools used to build apps for app platforms. And when we say app platforms, it's all of the platforms, including iOS, the iPad, Mac, TV, and watch. So when we get into the user interface, all you need to do to suddenly be coding for a certain device is a click. You can just move to, hey, I'm trying to develop an app for tvOS, and boom, you can start developing it, or for the watch. And I think they also introduced something about a multi-device platform, right, where you can actually build a code that is compatible with all of the devices. So Xcode literally provides the developer with a unified workflow for the user interface design, both for coding, testing, and the debugging. So essentially, the IDE, Xcode IDE, combined with Swift programming, the Swift programming languages, is literally what helps us develop apps, you know, easily and fun. So um, next thing I'm going to talk about is make sure. So is there anyone that still has a problem with the download and installation? Because I want to make sure that we are all good, so that, because you might need to start working on those surfaces from today when you get back. Is anyone having problems with installation? If you need help with installation, I can help you right now, or else you're also welcome to send me an email and I can schedule some time with you to walk through the installation. So that's most of what I have for this. Before I go talk about the resources, the other resources. So are there any specific questions that folks have today around anything about the course that you might want to ask, so that we can literally address it? And probably I would begin to is it, yeah, so I'm going to send us I'm going to send the, okay, so I'm seeing that it's not available on iPad store. Okay, so for those of you, right, for whom it's not available, some of the things we are going to do, we are probably going to start with other things that are not Xcode, right? More like the playground. A lot of the exercises are going to be in playground, but then at some point you're going to need a device for Xcode. So, but again, for people that do not have a specific device, there's a whole lot you can learn until you're able to get the devices. I'm going to introduce us to Playground, right? Playground should be, yeah, sorry. Playground is available, should be available on iOS. So for the syllabus, I'm going to make something available to us. Try to find out where I mute this. Okay. Okay, so does anyone have any questions? Any other questions? I mean, you can speak or you can type it in, whichever is more comfortable to you. Yeah, yeah. So Playground is available, and Playground, you can do a lot of the Swift activities on Playground, but eventually you would need the Xcode to be able to do some work. And even if you can't have the it's okay to just come into the class and listen, because the bulk of the work is going to be done outside the class. If you have access to a library or somewhere, you can always go to that place to go do the exercises. But just show up in class, learn as much as you can, and then you can go use any other resource anytime that it's accessible to you in either at the library or elsewhere. Version 13 is okay. We will be giving access to the slides after the class is done. Yes, we will. So when it comes to where we're going to dump resources and all of that, I'm going to work all of that out and tell us sometime by next week. At some point, I was trying to see if we could do a channel on MS Team, right, where all of us will be in one channel so that the resources can flow. You can even create groups where people work together. That's something I'm still trying to flesh out, especially because not everybody is within USC. Somebody was asking, how do I get assignments? So I'm going to make available, I need to mention that. So I'm going to make available a project file, right? So the book that we are going to, we talked about, have you all been able to download the book to your system, or do you have a problem downloading the book to your system? I sent an email over the weekend. Yeah, so uh, is that yes, that you have a problem with accessing the book? Okay, okay, that's fine. Okay, someone trying to say something? Okay, okay, that's fine. I will get that. I'll get that to you. Now, how you download the book? I sent an email. Let me send it again. Just a minute. Yep. So it's in Apple Books. If you can figure out a way to get into Apple Books, that's exactly where you are. I'm trying to find the link. But while that's going on, does anyone have any other questions that we might need to address? Yeah, that's fine. For those of you that didn't get the book, I will. Or if anyone finds the link to that thing, just put it in. Put it in there. If you have the link, I'm trying to find where I put the link. Okay, I think I found it. If I'm not mistaken, this should be it. So if you, oh, no, that's not it. That's not it. Okay. Do, 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 do.
No, well, there was a question about equipment that is needed.
Yep,
And I think that just is a Mac, iMac or MacBook, correct?
correct, right. Yeah, and some people have asked if you could use Windows. All of those options actually exist, but for someone that hasn't coded before, it will require, I don't know what level of technical expertise some of you might have, but there are actually sites where you can go buy Mac time and you can work virtually on their servers. That does exist. And then you can also um, create a virtual space on your system and install that way. But some of those things can be a little difficult to do if you don't have the technical background. And then the only other reason why I worry about that is it might create a lot of disruptions for you when we begin to do things and you can't flow. Uh yeah, so um thank you, Tammy. Tammy, look for version 13. So what you have here is version 12, but you can open with that and use version 13. And I'm sending the link for version 13 because that's the most recent version. So I have it in there. See if you can. Now, everybody, just click this. Correct. Okay, that's good. Yeah. So if you go click this and open it up, that's exactly the book that you're going to be needing. So my assumption at this point is go to Apple Books on your Mac and you'll find you're going to run into that resource and that's you ready to go. Those are the two main things that we really need before we can, for the course to be able to proceed with the course. Okay, so I'm gonna um, show us this, a couple of other resources that I would encourage in this class. That's one, two, and I'm going to show just a minute. I'm setting them up, but they are all going to be available to you eventually because I'm sending in the slide to everyone. I'm going to have to move this so that um yeah, this is a good one. And then this. So I'm throwing something in the chat right now. Look at this, right? Especially for those of you that already have some background in coding, that would be very helpful. So what you have there, you can open it up on your system. What you have there, just a minute. Right. I'm going to stop sharing here so I can share the other. Hello. Sorry about that. I got thrown out. Hello, can you see me?
Yep, you're back.
Okay.
Yeah, you're good.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. And sorry about that. That was not intended. Just kind of happened to me. So I'm trying to share a screen. Just be patient with me. I think this is the screen I'm trying to share. Yes. So this is literally, again, everything I'm going to teach you. I don't know whether I will say teach you. Everything I'm going to guide you through in this class, right, is available online. You like we are living in the best time ever when it comes to knowledge, right? So if you want a structured way to get ahead of the curve, especially for those of you that already have experience in other languages, and this is not just for those, this is literally for everyone, you know, it will be good that you follow something like this, right? This guy has a lot of experience, certainly more experience than I have. And then I like the way he structured his courses, right? It's from day 1 to day 100, right? And it covers a whole lot of what we are going to cover in this class and beyond. So this is certainly one for the keeps, and I put it in the link area, in the link section of that work. That's very important. And then there are a couple of other things that I've put here. I'm actually going to have to run some videos here so that you can just see a couple of things ahead of our. This is another one. I haven't gone through this myself, but directly from Apple, and it hits a lot of those notes. But again, don't go begin to do everything. Whichever one you choose, just stick with that particular one alongside the reading that we are going to have you do. This is literally like an online book about basics if you want to know the fundamentals of basic. I went through it and I found I wasn't like, it's actually not a very difficult reading. So like next week, most of what we are going to be doing are just like the basics, the Swift operators. You're going to be seeing things about like assignment operators. And of course, for people that are already familiar and fluent in other languages, you can know that this is Breeze. But this literally shows you how Swift does it. So arithmetic operators, how you do all of that. We are starting from the basic. We're going to do compound assignment operators, comparison operators, where you have your equal to your assignment, not equal to, greater than, blah blah blah, how all of those things work, because that's the preliminary work you need before we begin to build the UI, so that when we begin to do the code underneath, right, you literally know what you're doing from day one. So when I send the curriculum out, right, it will show how all of this is broken down. So this I think is also important that you keep it on the side, because literally if there's anything we're doing and it looks and you want to go through, like when we go through functions, and it's not a lot of reading, but when I went through this, I found out that it literally captures some of the most important things that need to be known with specific examples of how it needs to be done. But these are all reference materials, but the gold standard for what we are going to be doing is your developing Swift explorations. So I don't want you to be overwhelmed. And for most of these references, I just made them because of people that already have experience in other programs. But if you think you don't know a whole lot, don't bother, because we are starting from the scratch, right? So let me just, so any questions though before I just, let me see. Do we have any questions here in the chats? Okay. Okay. Back to you, James. So let me just read what he has. He said, as a word of encouragement to everyone, I started my software engineering career in 1979, and I'm still developing web, AWS, and mobile apps today. It has been an amazing journey for me, and it's so awesome to see all of you starting your own journey. Even after all these years, I'm here just like you, learning the latest and the greatest tools and technologies required in the world today, including Swift, which has been eluding me for quite a few years now. Good luck with the course. Thank you so much, James. So, I mean, you can see the breadth. You can imagine 79 till today. I'm sure a lot of people here were not even born then, but I mean, that's where we are with this. So to give you, so this is literally what, for someone that is itching for what can I start immediately, because you've already downloaded that, you have the book and all of that. I would encourage you to look at these specific videos that I'm sending now. If you can do some of this, like some of the videos, maybe 1 to 20, they are like 2 minutes, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 1 to 20 before next class. That would be awesome. It's going to just put you right where you need to be when we begin to go through everything that we need to do. Look at those videos. They are very simple. They're very straight to the point. Let me see. Mm, oh no. So can you hear the sound? Can you hear the sound?
No.
No? Okay, don't worry. Let me see if I can do it the other way. So I'm going to share from Windows, include computer sound, and boom, there we go. So just listen to some of this, because I want to give you some kind of prelude into what we are going to do, so that by the time we come, some of you already are ahead. And after that, I'm going to show you, or at least tell you about what chapters you need to read. And I'll include all of that in the email, what things you need to do between now, so that we are not wasting this week. And frankly, if you hit a snag or you can't even do anything, email me immediately. I'll get on Zoom and sort you out so that you don't miss any time. So you have the reading to do, and also this to help you get started.
There are lots of programming languages out there, but I think you're really going to enjoy learning Swift. This is partly for practical reasons. You can make a lot of money building iOS apps. But there are some good technical reasons too. You see, Swift is a relatively young language, having started in only 2014. This means it kind of bypasses a lot of the old language craft that older languages have. They build up over time. In fact, there's normally only one way to solve each kind of problem. But at the same time, being such a young language means Swift leverages lots of new techniques and technologies that new languages have. For example, it makes it very, very hard to write unsafe code. You've got to choose to do it actively. It makes it easy to write code that's clear and understandable. And best of all, it supports all the world's languages out of the box. None of those broken characters you'll see in other languages. Now, Swift itself is just the language and isn't designed to draw anything on the screen. And that's where Swift UI comes in, from 2019. Again, very, very new. As Apple's framework for drawing text, buttons, images, interactivity, and much more. As the name suggests, Swift UI was designed for Swift. It goes hand in hand with the language. It's really optimized for it, so you can build remarkably powerful applications in hardly any program. So I think, yeah, go ahead and learn Swift, because you can make lots of money building apps for iOS, macOS, tvOS, watchOS, and of course Linux and beyond, but also because it does so many things so very well. No cruft, no confusion, just lots of power at your fingertips. What's not to like?
Yep. So a whole lot of that. Let me just do
To
the
whom it may
next one
concern,
too.
I'm
Don't mind.
applying for the position of
I'm sorry
information
for all
security
the
analyst.
adverts,
I've
but
always been in
the guy, that's like what we pay.
I've been teaching folks to write Swift ever since the language launched way back in 2014. And at this point, hackingwithswift.com is the world's largest site dedicated to teaching Swift. Along the way, I've learned a huge amount about what topics really matter the most, how to structure those things in a smooth, consistent flow, and most importantly, how to help folks remember what they've learned. And this course is the product of all that learning. Unlike my previous work, this course does not strive to teach you everything about Swift, but instead it spends more time on a subset of features that matter the most, the ones you're going to use in every app you build time and time again. Yes, there are some more advanced language features I've kind of cherry picked out and covered specifically, and when you finish the book you might want to carry on learning more and more and more, and that's fine. But I'd honestly, at this point, expect you'd much rather get busy building real apps in SwiftUI. Now, each part of this course is available as both text and video, but they cover exactly the same material, so you can learn whichever way works best for you. I will sometimes use slides to introduce stuff, sometimes show you Xcode and walk through both. There's a variety of things to help you see it in different kinds of light. It might feel repetitive, but it is entirely intentional. There's a lot of things to learn, and if you saw every topic